viewer, welcome to Multimedia Plus online television and welcome to another edition of our broadcast. Top stories in this edition. What challenges do women face during the coronavirus in Sierra Leone? The communications officer of the Sierra Leone Maritime Administration speaks on measures to curb corona amidst cries from fishermen. The Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, SLAJ, condemns the beating of journalist Fire Amara Fire by military officers in Kenema district. The Executive Director of Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, Abdul Fatoma, says Sierra Leone is not ready for another lockdown. And citizens raised concerns on some of the challenges faced during the 3 days lockdown in Sierra Leone. All of these stories are all lined up in today's news broadcast. I am your host, Lucy Emanet Aliyu. And now for the news and details. As the fight against COVID-19 continues, concerns have been raised as to what will be the plight of women who most often or always occupy crowded places like the market areas. My colleague Fatmata Binta Jallo has more on this story.
The devastating effect of Ebola on women and girls is said to be as a result of late inclusion of women in policy making and implementation processes as against the epidemic. I sorted the views of some traders along Salad Grown and Dovecourt to know how informed they are on the COVID-19 and how affected they are by the state of emergency. And they had this to say.
We are currently today at Eastern Police Dovecourt, and today we are here to interview traders. As we all know, Dovecourt is one of the places that when we talk about the coronavirus, it is one of the spots that is more prone to the sickness, as so many people from different backgrounds come here to do their businesses. And in the process of doing their businesses, they come in contact with various people. Whether they have the sickness or not, that is best to how best they can be able to prevent themselves. So today, we are going to interview people. We are going to interview the traders on how best they are doing the preventive measures, how best they are following the precautions that the government of Sierra Leone, through the Ministry of Health, has ordered every Sierra Leonean to follow.
I don't know what's anything.
You don't hear people when they talk out.
I can hear they talk, but I say na secret not fine. I say na secret not fine. Any country, I know they reach there. The kind disaster where they put is too much. Maybe they say when I say no, what's one, they was one. 24/7 we're ready for what's one. You see, they're all ready for common amenity. They tell Allah thank you. We pray to her. Say there they can't find what to eat. We don't get. If we get by now, they can. We go sit down. But now we don't get. I make we can't find. So now we pray to God before God. I know say all they pray. Allah must answer you.
See the business here. A business with the plate, understand it. So we're not going to can do business by a can buy two, the fire. We're not going to pass to talk to her. We can come next to you, and I don't know to the job. If we government prove up for you, all that thing they for use. And from him, they pray to the use of the business, they say, what he can do in himself. We able to make una two, it's 12,000. We go able to make una 2 million. The government will not protect you. How you do business, they avoid the country. So when you carry a pass with the government, so you will be able to pay for the team.
Well, we the Makisuma now this is where they can they say no was one day, the was we and now they put that in our nose. But as for me, I not begin put it because you know they can, you know they na the nose. Would they wear long sleeve there? They say they try for save life. You see what the government say for the day now for God. Waiting after God, the leader. So waiting the leader don't say no, nobody know for say no. Pass to go for God all the time.
Prior to the coronavirus in the country, Nasu Fofana, a women and girls' rights activist and deputy leader of the Unity Party, has said that government should not dwell on the mishaps of not incorporating women in combating the deadly coronavirus.
Of
course, it was a sad time, and we know that Ebola ravaged our country, and the impact on women and girls was quite devastating. And the reason for that was women were engaged very late in the process. Women were not incorporated from the beginning, okay? And that was a mishap from the side of the government. Women's groups were working, but they were almost working in isolation. They had minimal support. As we can always tell, women's issues are sometimes treated as a secondary issue, not an integral issue. So from the start to finish, people try to minimize our participation. And we saw that very, very clearly during Ebola. I believe that the lessons learned, even though women's issues came on board, the international community also did not help, because UN Women did their best, but the support wasn't there, because the international community with the development assistance politics overtook some of these issues. Again, we know that most of our women are community women. They are traditional women. The integration of the traditional leaders, especially the paramount chiefs and the female paramount chiefs, were ready. That also came very late. The index case for Ebola was a traditional woman. And the engaging at that level at a later stage did not help the cause. So a lot of work was done, but it was very late.
She further stated that government cannot do everything, noting that activists and other advocacy groups should give their services by educating women in their various communities. Madam Fofana continued by commending the efforts of the government in policy level, adding that citizens should join by supporting the government in implementing.
Well, the good thing is, we possibly understand what social distancing means. I don't know if my auntie understands what social distancing means, or why, or what the benefits are. Does anybody come here to speak to them? I don't know. I might find out why we're here. But I can see, I've been here, I was here earlier this week. I saw that they were sitting very close. Yes, there's a bucket out there, but is that sufficient? Is anybody taking the time to come to them and explain and see how they can be part of the process? I want to say the government has done has been very, very effective so far. I mean, all over the world, people are struggling. I cannot really fault my government at this time.
It is worth noting one of the consequences of not incorporating a gender lens into managing crises is that health inequities that women and girls already suffer are underestimated. The West African Ebola outbreak is a case in point, and thus, the need for this to be looked into during the coronavirus pandemic in Sierra Leone. Reporting for Multimedia Plus Online TV, I am Fatmata Binta Jallo.
The Sierra Leone Association of Journalists has condemned the mob beating of journalist Fire Amara Fire by a group of military personnel in Kenema. Patiketo Conte reports.
According to Ahmed Sahid Nasrallah, the president of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, SLAJ, the incident took place at a potential quarantine venue at Dama Road, Kenema, wherein Fire and his colleague journalists were denied entry into the venue, and so he decided to take photos with his phone from a distance, which he said led to the mob beating.
From our regional executive east, Fire and some other journalists went to the potential quarantine venue at Damba Road in Kenema. And the place was barricaded by the army, and I think there was some inspection going on, and so Fire and his colleagues wanted to find out what was happening here, whether we are blocked by the RSLAF personnel, one leader Fofana, and then the Fofana said no, this is barricaded. They will not allow them to enter, even though they identify themselves. So he said no, they will not allow them to enter. But then Fire got angry when he saw other people coming in and out. They were given access by the major, especially Lebanese people. That was what we got. We were going in and out. And then Fire also saw that at the same venue where we were trying to barricade, there was a truck there also that was offloading. The shop was there also that was offloading bags of rice. And then finance said that no, this is a potential quarantine area. There should be no economic activity in this area, so they should close. I'm not telling you what we got from our colleagues there. And then the fire decided that he will step backwards and then use his phone to take photos of the truck and the people offloading the stuff. And then according to reports, what they told us, they said the soldier got offended and then he rushed that fire, grabbed his camera from him, and then he called on his colleagues and then they gave him some serious smoke beating. And then fire was helpless, and then they also took him to the police and put him under custody. Even though the journalists in the township rallied around and then came to the police station to get him released so that they would take him to the hospital so that he gets urgent medical attention. But then definitely he was delayed at the police under custody.
Mr. Nasrallah continued that no matter the fact of the incident, the military has no right to mob an unarmed journalist. He went on to say that they are going to ensure that they pursue the matter and see that the culprits are brought to justice.
When we got the news, when I got the report on that day, I can't remember the day now. Then I got the story from them, and then I also tried to contact those who were involved. I tried to call the army, the leader himself, because I gave his number. I tried to call him, I also tried to call the head of the police there at Kenema. He also did not pick his phone, and then I called the district chairman. He was also part of was already at the scene when the meeting took place. So he told me a different story from what I got from my but I said, okay, irrespective of the matter, the fact of the matter in this case, definitely no soldier or no security personnel has a right to beat or to not beat the journalist who is only in the line of duty. So definitely the membership that we are going to pursue this matter to the end, make sure that our colleague gets justice. And in the same vein, we also call on our colleagues because this is a state of emergency, and what we want you to do is to be very cautious. At this kind of crisis, you have to know information is a fundamental right during this kind of pandemics. But people need us to go out there and get the information for them. They need us to give them the right to get the information. They can't just sit by in our offices and develop the information and then think about the information. You have to go out there and get the information. But at times like this, I urge all journalists to be self-protective and also to be very cautious. If you are in a situation where the army is in control and they've given their orders, you should not enter this place. Just get back.
The Slash president noted that fire is responding to treatment. He called on journalists across the country to be conscious and self-protective during the crisis period. Reporting for Multimedia Plus Online TV, I am Patrick Yatta Conte.
A 3 days lockdown that was instituted by the government of Sierra Leone to prevent the spread of the deadly coronavirus that continues to ravage lives across the world has ended. Citizens in Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown, have however shared their views on the outcome of the lockdown.
If I sleep well, I grab well, I don't work well, so I don't eat beaucoup. I don't just what for me. Yeah, I'm not happy, sir. I want you to good back. Would I bring other lockdown back? I'm happy.
So it's
because I'll say the top. Now the last back now, then they say lockdown. Anyway, the lockdown, would they say no it's bad, but not bad. Then they observe anybody in future. I down, my body, this and that, so. Would I sleep, without not sleep, without well, without not well. But rather than they try, they say lockdown. Anyway, the lockdown is fine. So God, thank you. Anyway, now the water, they agree the weed, ask them, they do water. That's a little picky, they don't come and go get water. I'll get water. Let them do water. Be a who they beg. That the water no more, not a problem. But you two are not a problem. We eat well, we sleep well, we work well.
3 days lockdown actually, it not been too bad. Although there were so many problems which other people encounter, but to me on side, because I've been saying that a good measure at least for not tackle this COVID-19. Actually, I've been in our house the 3 days, although yes, boringness, it's not been for it. Then I encountered a certain problem like water problem because like the side out there inside barrack will not get water well. Now one place I pump the gun, so like it been disturb we or even come out or go get water.
The Executive Director of Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, Abdul Fatoma, has said that Sierra Leone is not ready for another lockdown. He made the statement whilst assessing the outcome of the 3 days lockdown. My colleague Audra Sano reports.
The Executive Director for Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, Abdul Fatoma, has said that Sierra Leone is not ready for another lockdown. He made the statement whilst assessing the outcome of the 3 days lockdown.
It's scary now that our neighboring countries like Liberia and Guinea, their number are increasing day by day. And, they are not far from us. So if we internally cannot really take some self-social discipline, it's going to be catastrophic for us because we don't have the capacity, we don't have the human resource capacity to fight this disease. We don't have the financial resources to fight this disease. We don't have the infrastructure facility in the hospitals. We need the equipment. It is shameful, but it's the reality that, we were having 70 beds that, that really can attend to high emergency cases. When you look at the human resource now, because a country that has more population and also the financial power and the human resource, they are battling, they're in huge challenge as to get to what is really happening and what is really going on, with regards to fighting the virus. So definitely, we are not prepared. We have to be sincere and be honest with ourselves.
Some people are of the view that it will be apt for government to address some of these challenges if at all Sierra Leone was to get another lockdown. Reporting for Multimedia Plus Online TV, I am Audra Sano.
Basic things like electricity, water supply, shelter, food, these were huge challenges within a 72 hours period for a majority of Sierra Leoneans across the country. And in the bigger cities, you can see people who are homeless. They were left outside. They were having nowhere actually to get refuge. In shelter homes. And those who are living in, bigger compounds or other communities, they were having, problems, to access water, safe drinking water. And so that has to break the chain of the lockdown, control system that was put in place by the government of Australia. And so definitely that exposed people, to break the protocol of social distancing, and that alone undermines the actual means or relevancy of social distancing and also the lockdown. And electricity, yes, some areas we are challenged, but these are not new things to us as a country. Before lockdown, we were having difficult challenges to safe drinking water in the capital city. We have a problem with stable and clean electricity. Then food for the vulnerable, yes. Government can say that they brought in food for some. They have statistics with NACSA. I understand the president said NACSA spent 4 billion euros. But yeah, all the citizens, in this country, they use their own resources to feed the homeless people, women and children who were on the street and other young people. It was not properly coordinated, because we lack of statistics in this country. As a human rights organization, we frown at every human rights violation or abuse. We're concerned that it involves state actors and the police and the military personnel. We saw a couple of videos in the capital city and also some provincial towns that citizens were subjected to inhuman, degrading treatment. That is totally unacceptable, and it has no place in any democratic society. We condemn that in all totality, and we urge the government of Sierra Leone to look into those ugly incidents and take the appropriate action, to discipline those who perpetrated such disrespectful acts, against innocent and harmless civilians.
Mr. Fatoma, however, stated that the lockdown was somehow needed and it was necessary for contact tracing, and though the lockdown had its challenges, but to encourage people to adhere to the necessary preventive measures.
Well, viewers, be reminded you're viewing content from the Multimedia Plus online television. We continue with the rest of our broadcast. The Sierra Leone Maritime Administration has put in place safety measures to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. However, fishermen have expressed some concerns and challenges they have been faced with amidst some of these safety measures. For more on this story, let's join my colleague, Theresa Thomas.
As a way of containing the spread of the coronavirus disease, the Sierra Leone Maritime Administration has instituted various preventive measures. One of these measures is that all vessels engaged in fishing activities intending to proceed to sea must do so before 7 p.m. and that all local motorized vessels engaged in national voyage must adhere to the operational period from 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. As a result of this, fishermen along the Aberdeen and Lumley Beach respectively highlighted some of the challenges they are faced with since the outbreak of the coronavirus.
Get it sick, then the money for paper business, then they or una home base then for free what they do now we do but they no agree. And the money for paper business no more take license but sick they under. And the money more. What you for do this then they? Huh? What you would they check being law make now this see the gooey for the thing and they would and can and the money for the thing and they we pass to pay license so but would they pan the sick for but the sick don't they ask for something what would they do back but then they ask for paper then they others you see and during the episode they pay quick but SL people will come the TDR pay 350 somebody 150 you see but right now they say 1,500,000 look about them the money being
they been there where we can don't work so then see we know for Kandong as well in Asia Opianda mix on social man then the old bone the old cane or whether they Kandong the Wataya then they deal with for space reserve. So we go to map Opianda, pass Stellar and can mix with. And tell them a fish though that can buy. But it's not easy for we. Some fish then they didn't spoil. Because of where they can say them consider this that not for be gonna see, we to make them gonna see. Orlando. Okay. Go fishing that ice fish because they can buy ice load on the boat and go for them 5 or 6 days. Okay. When they come buy in the hand, but the one and the way they buy by crates. After we don't buy though we now can buy the half. Like we don't cancel, then they come with 60,000 fish, they can 65, 70.
Sulaiman Musa is the communications officer at the Maritime Administration. He stated that no restriction has been placed on fishing exercise, but that measures were meant to prevent the spread of the disease and that monitoring mechanisms are being put in place to ensure that people comply to these instructions.
He had instructed them to disembark before 7 p.m. So what we are doing also is to complement the effort of the Ministry of Fisheries. We are also working on on a similar press release in order to get the fishermen to go at sea before 7. In that way, we are able to monitor how many passengers they are having on the boat, the type of equipment, you know. So we want to make sure they are safe at sea. So that's why we are asking that they disembark before 7 p.m. We have MTLs at all disembarkation sites across the country. Well, we are in a state of emergency, and we also have additional personnel from the maritime wing of the military. We are very efficient and effective when it comes to monitoring local motorized vessels.
Adama Conte is the chairlady at the Kinjimi market. She intimated that amidst challenges they are being faced as a result of the outbreak of the coronavirus, measures are being instituted to ensure that traders and customers follow the preventive steps to prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
As Sierra Leoneans, we all feel bad what we are doing because we know the last thing as Ebola, when we take things that we put in place, we obey the laws that the government do. We're not able to get no victim now. Thank God for that side. So if it is come back, so as you can see me, now the ground on abonnent say, I don't permit monitor because to start with when it goes in the car, we not allow no buyer for crime side until the boss they may offload one because that boss they on the say they know now because of time they don't come late. So now the crowd don't come up. That's the police, the officer they never push people back this way. Let them do the same process. For let you ask there. They put together over them before they wash there. So the policy where they show we that was if you watch right up this step, you go see buckets. If you look down the walk back, you go see buckets. I mean when people in the kind side they wash there, leave up for them I don't wash there. In fact me the wasan and the wasan pass on better. So I believe that God will guide you because we take things. And indeed, we not allow no boats for they have fast for. We then move them sharp for them for don't let. For go brackets them time and them we will reach at them 6 o'clock. So then we will go na them different rooms there. Say 7 o'clock later. So we that point say we all and fine because we don't want for victim to the government. This way can so we not happy. We all at the end because we all not come back for anything they do cause right now. In generation, we go feel that.
It is worth noting that the public are being encouraged by the government and health professionals to act responsibly and protect other members of the community by complying with health directives. For Multimedia Plus Online TV News, I am Teresa Thomas.
Well, if you're just tuning in, the news is coming to you from Multimedia Plus Online Television. We will now go for a short break. Stay glued.
Yeah, production. Multimedia Plus, number one at the country. Multimedia Plus, beyond creativity, that now we mission. Multimedia Plus, we they bring to you so much quality. Multimedia Plus, number one, yeah. Quality video we there, photo shoot, voiceover we there, jingle and soundtrack we there, documentary, podcast we there, market and sales, audio production sell we there. Don't forget to Tapokana Multimedia Leash. Welcome to the land of creativity. Yeah, at the bongo bluff with the beauty. Yeah. You see me photo, see quality. If you see me video, see quality. If you listen me music, see quality. You feel say na magic. See quality. Numbers 2 come with 6 na the place. After sabiti the customer the way.
Well, welcome back to Multimedia Plus Online Television. As we continue with preventive measures to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, let's take some preventive ways of keeping ourselves safe.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, the expert body on coronavirus, has released guidance for general public and healthcare professionals on the symptoms of the virus. A person could be at risk if they have any or all of the following: fever and symptoms of lower respiratory illness, such as coughing or difficulty breathing, after traveling to Wuhan or having close contact with someone who was ill and is now under investigation for the virus in the past 2 weeks. Fever or symptoms of lower respiratory illness after having close contact in the past 2 weeks with someone who's been confirmed to have the virus. The CDC defined close contact as being within about 6 feet, 1.8 meters, or within the room or care area of a person with the coronavirus for a prolonged period without appropriate protective clothing, or having direct contact with the infectious secretions of a person with the virus without protective clothing. Coronaviruses are particularly dangerous for people who have weaker immune systems, like young children and older adults. To protect yourself from the virus, try to avoid contact with people who display symptoms similar to those of pneumonia or the common cold, like coughing or a runny nose. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth with unwashed hands. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water and scrub for at least 20 seconds. Use alcohol-based hand sanitizer when possible. Avoid animals and animal markets. The only current treatment for coronavirus being offered is supportive in nature. If you notice any of these symptoms and conditions, please contact your nearest professional healthcare setup. Help spread this information to everyone.
Well, we hope you've learned something from that. Well, that's all we have time for in today's news broadcast on Multimedia Plus online television. But before we close, here's a recap of the headlines. Top stories in this edition. What challenges do women face during the coronavirus in Sierra Leone? The communications officer of the Sierra Leone Maritime Administration speaks on measures to curb corona amidst cries from fishermen. The Sierra Leone Association of Journalists / condemns the beating of journalist Faya Amara Faya by military officers in Kenema district. The executive director of Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, Abdul Fatoma, says Sierra Leone is not ready for another lockdown. And citizens raise concerns on some of the challenges faced during the 3 days lockdown in Sierra Leone. Well, that's how we draw down the curtains for today's broadcast. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Multimedia Plus Online Television for more updates, news broadcasts, programs, and interviews. We're also on Facebook at Multimedia Plus. Please visit, like, and share our page. Until we meet again next time, I have been your presenter, Lucy Imanet Aliu. Stay blessed and stay safe.